everyone, my name is Yakshi and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a sketchbook tour of my latest sketchbook which I just completed. This is my third sketchbook. I do work in multiple sketchbooks for different purposes, but this one is my Hanamil watercolor book, and I've used this for watercolor, gouache, color pencils, ink. So I've used it for a variety of mediums. So this is the watercolor sketchbook. So I'm going to be going through the entire book with you and just giving you a little bit more insight into each illustration as we flip through. So starting off, I started this book actually in April 2021, completed it in May 2022. So it's taken just over a year to complete the sketchbook. But as I said, I do work in multiple sketchbooks for different purposes. So starting off with the first page, I actually did this illustration of the Big Ben, and I used fine liners for it, and then I just used washes of watercolor to add some color to the actual image. And then I also, the next piece was this one over here, which is the an illustration in gouache. I did this little frog sitting under a leaf in the rain. I did this with gouache, and this was the second page. But I did realize that by working on both sides of the page, it created a bit of a warping. So when you go back to this one and you see the page has gone a bit warped on the side a little bit, because I did use quite a bit of gouache and water on this image. So that's why I started keeping most of my images to the right of the page and not on the left. Also, sometimes when I work with color pencil, it does transfer over to the left page. So after this, most of the illustrations and drawings have been on the right side of the page. So after that gouache illustration, which by the way, I do have prints available on my website for this one if you're interested. But yeah, the next one I did was this one of a cat, which was done in watercolors. So I did this one, just a watercolor illustration of a cat, or a kitten in this case. And then I did this illustrations of mushrooms. This was done using gouache. All of these were done using gouache. And then I did this illustration of a deer sleeping in the grass, curled up, and this was done with watercolors. And then I used some color pencil over just to get some of that detail for the texture of the fur. So that was the next one. And then the following one was a illustration I was trying with watercolors, just to do an underwater illustration. I wasn't too happy with this one, how it turned out, so I didn't actually go really into trying to make it more detailed. But this is how it turned out. But I didn't really work on finishing it up completely because it wasn't turning out the way I wanted it to. I think I could have, like looking back now at it, I could have added more some gouache or color pencils and really defined some of these areas and got some details in the corals maybe. But yeah, this was just one that I did, which I didn't really go too much into it because I wasn't happy with how it was turning out. So I just not completely abandoned it, but I never really worked on it more to get more details into it or onto it. The next one I did was a painting with watercolors of a hummingbird, and this was done also with color pencil over, just to get some of those details for the textures of the feathers. So yeah, that was the next one that I did. And some of these are available on my YouTube channel. So you will see, I think this one is available as well on my YouTube channel. The process video of this is there as well as some of the others that I have previously shown. So if you're interested in that, you can just have a look at my video library. You should come across the process videos for a lot of these illustrations or paintings in this sketchbook. The next one I did was a color pencil drawing of a hummingbird as well. I tried to get a bit of texture in it. Also, it was a nice drawing, but I'm not too happy with the final results. I lost a lot of that detail, some of the details, by layering too much of color on. But ultimately, it's okay. It was a learning curve for me, but this was another one that I did with color pencils. This is only color pencils. And then I did this illustration of a tree frog, and this was done with gouache. And this is also on my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the process video. And then I also tried to do this illustration with watercolors and color pencils. But I wasn't actually happy with how it turned out. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to. As I said, I lost a lot of detail in it, and I didn't really spend too much time trying to really fix it up. I could have added more depth by adjusting some of the values, but I just left it at this. Wasn't too happy how it was turning out, so I just abandoned it at this point. But I did finish it, but just never really worked to add more detail and depth to it. Then the next one I have here is a detailed illustration of or drawing of a bird, a hummingbird as well. But this hummingbird was done with watercolors and color pencil on top. I have the full process video of this hummingbird on my Patreon page. So if you would like to see the full process video or see what I have to offer on my Patreon page, you can have a look at that. I do have more longer videos and different videos on my Patreon page, which you can watch if you'd like to see more longer tutorials and lessons as well. And then I've done this for Christmas in 2021. I did this illustration or drawing of a Christmas shop. You can see I've done with the snow, and this was all done in gouache. So I used gouache for this one. And then I started off the year not knowing really what I wanted to do, so I was just doodling on this page, not really paying attention to what exactly I was creating, just from my head, drawing anything that came to my mind. And then I actually had it in pencil. Then later on I went over with fine liners and then just added a bit more color with some watercolors. So this is more of a doodle sort of page, not anything that was really with a reference or anything like that. And then I moved on to working on this piece. I did work on both sides of the page with this one, but I didn't do too many washes of watercolors, so it was quite okay with the warping. But you can see it didn't really make much of a difference on the other side. But this one was done only with watercolors, and it was just an image I came across on either Unsplash or Pixabay, I'm not too sure, but one of the royalty-free sites, those two. And then I just came across this picture that I wanted to capture, and I just found it really, the bicycle was really the key focus point for me for this drawing or painting. So yeah, that was one I did with watercolors. Then I went in with color pencil again, and watercolor also for the background, but I did this one with color pencil. This was a illustration as well that I did, trying out different techniques with different color pencils. It wasn't something that I wanted to complete. I was just trying out different techniques, using the pencil in a different way, using different pencils and seeing how it works. So this was another one that I just was an experimental page, and I did this hummingbird as well. I was kind of drawing a lot of hummingbirds at that point. So then I did this painting in watercolors, and this painting was of a red panda, and I did this completely using only watercolors. I'm not too sure, but I think maybe I could have used some white gouache, because I do use my watercolors in conjunction with the white gouache. So it could be that I use white gouache. Obviously it's very refined, those white, so it must be some white gouache. So that was the red panda. This is on my YouTube channel as well. And then another one that I've done, this was a landscape scene that I did using gouache, of just a bench under a tree facing this mass of grass areas and trees, and the shadow areas at this side, and the sun is shining down on that side. So it's just a very nice summery day. It just gives a nice summery day, relaxing vibe. So yeah, that was an illustration or painting I did with watercolors with gouache. This again is a video on my YouTube channel for the full process. Then the next one I did, this is the next one, yeah. The next one I did is this illustration of colored rainbow leaves. This was done using watercolor pencils, which I don't use that much. I mostly use the pan sets or the tubes for watercolors, but this was done with the watercolor pencils. And I also used some fine liners just to get some of those details for the veins on the leaves themselves, as well as some of the outlining as well. So this was another video that I did on YouTube. But yeah, this was a fun one because I was moving from different colors and I got to use a rainbow of colors, and it was really fun. And using the watercolor pencils also, I learned new techniques with them that I could use to achieve gradient looks, like moving from one color to the other, even in the leaf itself. So yeah, this was definitely one I enjoyed doing. And the next one I've done, this one I was doing this bird because I was trying out, the first time I was trying out the Intense Paint Pan set. This was the illustration that I did with the paint pans, and you can see it actually came out really nice. It was just the first try at using that the paint pans, and then I just outlined everything with, and I added a little bit of details and some shading with a fine liner. But you can see this is how it turned out. And this the process video of this is also available on my Patreon page if you'd like to see that. Then I was trying to experiment with creating a full scene, more of a sort of like a fairy tale, or maybe children's book or something like that, just some illustration like that. That's the kind of image I wanted to create. Nothing too detailed, nothing too realistic, just something, just a fun piece that I just wanted to create. And then I put these little fairies in there and some butterflies, little rabbits, mushrooms, a mushroom house, a little pathway, there's a deer, some butterflies as well. So yeah, this was a piece that I just enjoyed, just playing around with some water and, you know, a little forest there. And yeah, so this was just one I was playing around with, but nothing too realistic with this one. And then I did this illustration of some poppies, and this was also a video on my Patreon page. This was also with the Intense Paint Pan sets. I used to do this one, but definitely enjoy using those sets. They just make it so easy because I use the Intense pencils a lot, and I have used the blocks. If you've seen my Animal Habitat art series, that entire series was created using the Intense pencils. But this was with the pan set, and I really enjoyed working with it. So yeah, this was another one I did. And then this one was a video on my YouTube channel where I did a review of the Intense Paint Pan sets. This was set number 1, if I'm not mistaken. I did that video where I was reviewing it and trying it out and really trying to get more depth and detail using the set. And this was the piece that I created with it. And then the next one that I did, this one was using the Derwent, I think it is the Chroma Flows. I was using the Derwent Chroma Flows for this illustration. I only used the color pencils for this one. I did not use any watercolors. I just wanted to see how the pencil works. Now, this is a textured paper, so you're going to see some of that texture come through on the image and on the background. But I did do a lot of blending to smoothen out a lot of the background. But yeah, this is how that one turned out, the Derwent Chroma Flows that I was trying out. And then I just did this painting in using watercolors. This was just a random painting that I did just of some trees, nothing too in depth or detailed. It's just something I just created, a sort of a loose sort of painting just of some trees with watercolors. And then I move on to the next one. This one I was trying out the Derwent Graphitant Paint Pan set. And then I just did this rusty old lock, and I was actually very impressed at how I was able to achieve all these different textures, and I was able to achieve that rusted look and the shine of the edge of the metal, the wood as well in the background. This is a video on my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full process video, but this was a very exciting. I like to draw antique things as well, and like old locks and old stuff, so vintage stuff. So this was something that I wanted to try to draw, this old rusty lock that I came across a photo, and I was like, no, I want to do that painting of that. It was actually perfect to use the Derwent Graphitant Paint Pen set because the colors worked well. I did use some color or browns from the Derwent Intense Paint Pen set as well, just to add to the Graphitant as well. And then I did this illustration. This one was using the Derwent Pro colors, my first try at using those pencils, and I just did a wash with watercolors in the background just to give it some depth really, and then I just use for the butterfly and the leaves here that the butterfly is going to land on. I'm just using the same color pencils for that. And I think if I'm not mistaken, when I did the wash, I did do a slight wash of blue over a light blue over the entire butterfly. That's just because of the texture of the paper, to get rid of some of that texture. And the next one I did, it was an okay piece. This was just something I was trying out. I started at this point, I think I was doing some art journaling and discovering art journaling and creating textures. So I just wanted to try out to see if I can create like a brick wall with some wooden door texture and just create this little scene. This was a very loose painting, nothing too, it had some details in it, but it was not something that I wanted to be hyper realistic. I just wanted to get the feel of creating bricks and painting bricks using watercolors. So that's what I did with this one. And then this one was a painting that I did of a sunset. This was done using the Faber-Castell watercolor paint tubes, a set of 24. I tried that out, and then I just created this painting with those watercolors. And I must say, these watercolors are very similar to gouache. They're very opaque. They can be used very opaque, very translucent as well. The colors are very vibrant and saturated. So definitely enjoyed working with this one as well. This is also a video on my YouTube channel if you'd like to see that. And then I did something a bit more loose and just a nice little piece that I did with a horse. This was using watercolors. It was not also very realistic. It was just something more calm, relaxing painting session, just to create this entire painting. But I really enjoyed creating this piece. A very loose painting, but creating the horse, there is some detail for the horse as well. But yeah, this was a watercolor painting that I did in my sketchbook. So the next piece that I created is this one over here, which was something that it's not, I usually don't paint this kind of color tones, but I wanted to just create a painting with 5 colors. So I used this reference photo I found that had just this limited color palette for the background, the pastel orange, some pale shades, and then it has this background building up to the front with the darker leaves and plants in the front and foliage in the front. So this was just something I was experimenting with and trying out, and it actually was a very fun process to create this piece. It didn't take that long. It was a very quick painting, but I definitely enjoyed the process of using only a limited color palette and just using and diluting those colors and creating the different like the background lighter areas and moving darker as you add less water. So this one was done using watercolors. And then we come to the last piece, and this was my final piece for the sketchbook. This was also done with watercolors, but only using 2 colors, and then I also used a little bit of white gouache just for some of the areas on the moon in the background, just to get that really bright white. But other than that, I used only black and the gray in my watercolor pan set, and you can see I was able to create the silhouette wolf howling in the moonlight, and just create these trees and create this rock that he's standing on, or little cliff area that he's standing on. And this was really a fun process as well, to build the layers, and just using those 3 colors basically. Only the white gouache and a gray and a black watercolor paints. So you can create a really nice piece even if you just have a few colors. You don't need to have a whole range of colors. You can get a nice painting with with the limited number of colors. Okay, so this is my final piece that I did. I never paint on the back because the back got this little elastic that they got for the to close the book. So I didn't want to paint because we got it stuck down underneath, so I didn't paint on the back. But basically that was my sketchbook, third sketchbook completed. I'm really excited to start working on the next one. Definitely keep a sketchbook. I really enjoyed the entire process of creating all the pages in here. It was really an enjoyable process, and also a very relaxing time, as well as I learned a lot and I got to practice a lot. So once again, as I always say, I would highly recommend keeping a sketchbook. Since I started keeping a sketchbook, I started creating more art and learning more techniques and learning new techniques and different mediums, trying out different mediums. So I guess that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to like and share. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. Till the next one. Bye.